do you think that the reason for this great technological leap the past 100 years is due to this unseen shadow force that manipulates society from the shadows? And if so, maybe one reason the shadow force is possibly helping with this burst in technology is because the shadow force needs us to be their worker bees and work as a collective so that one day we can eventually merge with the machines and help this shadow force finally have the technology to leave this prison planet. And the reason for them wanting us to merge with the transhuman artificial intelligence is so that we can survive in space and be their slaves all planet. They know if we merge with the machines, we will be perfect slave species that can survive the vastness of space. What do you think about
Yeah,
that?
you're on to something very important, Michael.
What's up, guys? Michael James with Beyond the Forbidden. Do you want to receive extra content that's not viewed anywhere else? Support Beyond the Forbidden on Patreon to receive plus content that is only exclusive to members of Beyond the Forbidden. Content like the full 2-hour podcast, bonus shows, full-length video interviews, behind-the-scenes footage with guests, and much more. So what do you have to lose? Go to patreon.com/Beyond the Forbidden. That's patreon.com/Beyond the Forbidden and become a member of Beyond the Forbidden for just $5 a month. And also check the description for the links.
But Brad freaking Olsen, man, I've been trying to get you back on since at least the springtime. It's been a crazy year. Me and my wife did IVF, and many dollars later, we're finally within 2 days. 2 days, yeah, 2 days of having our first child. I'm 36, she's 38. But yes, it's been crazy, man. I knew this was going to happen, but man, I'm super pumped to have you back on the show. I've interviewed you a couple times on my older show, but how the hell are you doing, man?
Hey, I'm doing great, Michael. And yeah, we had some great videos a few years ago, some which even went viral and were popping up all over the place. So I'm really happy for you with the new addition to the family and great to reconnect with you. I know we were juggling quite a lot of dates and
Yeah,
times, but you got a lot
yeah.
going on your end. So
And I know
glad we
you do
got the
too. I know you do too.
time to connect it tonight.
Well, same as you. It's hard to get you because I know you're up there, man. Like since we last talked, it's like I don't know if it's the Antarctica thing or what, but you have freaking launched like a launching pad, man.
Yeah, Antarctica was
Are you half
definitely
AI? Like what's in your blood, man?
I know, Nordic blood, right? Must have been an explorer of Northlands. Well, I love skiing. I already got my ski pass for Tahoe this winter. Today was opening day up at Heavenly, but they haven't had a couple feet of snow and they're making snow, but I'm waiting for the big dumps to come. Then I'll get up there.
But I want to talk about, I think it's your latest book. I actually have it on Kindle.
Ah,
Yes, I
this
know. I
one,
don't have the
Beyond
hard.
Esoteric,
Yep.
Escaping Prison
Escaping Prison
Planet.
Planet. And I will get the
I'm
physical
rolling up.
copy, but I just haven't yet because I'm all about the physical copies because I believe that will last quicker than. But, anyways, we're going to be talking a little bit about that. But before we talk about that, what we just talking about before the show, one thing that I think, and we don't have to go on this, maybe just a few minutes, but one thing I think each generation is a byproduct of the previous generation. So what I'm saying is we are all guilty of the shit that's going on now. Everything leading up to now. Me, my generation, you, your parents, my parents, everybody is guilty. Just like during World War II, Nazi Germany. Hitler wasn't. People could have said no. Everybody is guilty back then because, like, I guess what I'm saying is that all we have to do, Brad, is say no, and we can change the system overnight. You know what I mean?
I do
Like,
know what you mean, and I would
who's the
agree with
guy?
that,
Who's the?
and just
Go ahead.
expand on it by saying it's also called our free will, and each
Yeah.
one of us has choices to make, and we have a right to make those informed choices. That's why I'm such a critic of the mass media, is because it has led us astray. It's not giving us the information we need to make the right decisions using our free will on this free will planet, which the consensus consciousness is really what drives the narrative. And it is that narrative, which is so ultimately important to the powers that be, although I call them now the powers that were, because they're on the way out and they've used every trick in the book, starting with, well, MK Ultra was a byproduct in the last few decades, and the larger psychological operations that have been done to the human race, because they need us to stay in our free will. And like you said, we all have a decision to make, and that's based on the best information we have to make the best decision we can make.
And is it Mark? A lot of people's talked about it. You have, I've talked about it on my shows over the years. A lot of researchers, but Mark Passio, he's made a series of lectures, talking about the order followers. That's what it's about, man. We all follow orders. If we quit following the orders, you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah,
we can change the system overnight. And we possibly get to have some type of disclosure overnight. I'm not saying possibly ET disclosure, but more transparency, more like just breaking through the vastness of the fog, the mist that is forbidden amongst our, our eyes. You know what I mean? It's like, I feel like can, but that's very strong, is that, and I was an order follower. I was a military, military police, 6 years.
wow.
But we're, like I said, we're all guilty. And I feel like, and I hate hearing like her parents. Well, my generation, like the kids these days, man. Yes, the kids these days. But what about your generation raising these damn kids? And then I got to worry about my generation raising these damn kids these days. It's like, we're all guilty. Quit saying these kids these days. It's like, well, crap, y'all were a product of the freaking hippie movement. You know what I mean? It's like that MK Ultra, like, I don't know. I can keep going down that rabbit hole, but let's quit talking about that, Brad. But before, because I would like to upload this to certain channels and socials, so we could say like the deeper, darker stuff when I get that membership going, website going. Okay. But with your book, man, Beyond Esoteric, Escaping Prison Planet, I guess, and I totally agree, man, this is a prison planet. What inspired you to write this book and use that strong statement, that escaping prison planet, because that's exactly what's going on here, man.
Yeah, in the big picture, it really is. And it's the third in the esoteric series. Each one is over 400 pages. So it's, and I don't repeat my content, 1,400 plus pages of original content, this being the latest one in the series, which took me 6 years to write and compile and put it all together. This is just all the subjects that have been withheld from humanity. And what I really endeavored to find out from the time I was a little kid, thinking, why don't we live on a utopia planet? We could figure this out. We don't have to have all this degradation of the environment, people going starving every night, and all the things that are going on. And then being able to really, now in my adult life, while doing this research and traveling around the world, being able to pinpoint it and see the real root of the problem and who's steering this narrative, which gets us locked here in prison planet. And it is this globalist elite, and they are really pushing their agenda really hard right now. And when a lot of these theories, as they were called, turn into fact, the name changes from esoteric to exoteric. And I'm bereft to say that so many of the subjects I've written about are now coming true and are now becoming exoteric. So this will be beyond exoteric pretty soon. And let me give you an example. So just this last week was the G20 meeting in Bali, Indonesia, which Biden didn't go to and Putin didn't go to. But you know who did go was Klaus Schwab of the Hut and Bill Gates of Hell. So apparently now they are officially steering the government. And this is the news book in the first section, which I call neo-fascism, the new fascism that has overtaken governments of the world and is working its way into every single part of this country. And this is what we're up against. So why did I write these books? Is to just give people the information they need to make those informed decisions, to do as you said, and opt out of this dirty, rotten system. And this whole temple is going to come falling down on their head pretty soon, because it has been the control mechanism of planet Earth, not only for years, decades, our entire lifetimes, centuries and millennia control structure to keep humans ignorant, stupid, unhealthy, die early, get us out of the way after our working years are done, so they can keep running the show. But it's an anti-human depopulation agenda. And we're right now in the middle of it, where humanity is even starting to diverge timelines, being there is now 2 human races living concurrently, depending on if you did that thing or not. And that is the organic humans, the purebloods. We're still following the course of the human race, believing in our immune system, not having to be given allopathic pharmaceutical, but following the organic human model of just living human 1.0, let's call them that. But now we have human Borg Genesis, a new kind of human, which is now split off. And this is what's really mind blowing to me, Michael. And we talked about it in some of our earlier interviews, is the 2 timelines that humanity's on. And I think now, in retrospect, from the last time we spoke, we can see quite clearly that there is this timeline one of releasing all this technology beyond our wildest dreams, even the med bed and new kind of health sciences that are going to put all the stuff obsolete in a day, but also those that have gone on this other journey. And isn't it interesting that people who have interacted with ETs from our future, like Dan Burish on the Project Camelot, and also Bill Wood, who talked about the yellow cube, which I feature on the cover of Beyond Esoteric because it's so incredibly interesting. Dan Burish was saying he was talking to ETs from the future, which were hybrided humans, hundreds of years from now, that are coming back to this timeline right now to ensure their very survival, that they will exist in these hundreds of years from now. And we also know that there's entire cities underground, including laboratories and all kind of cloning technology that is available. And this is all happening in real time. That's why it's so mind-blowing in this period to be alive right now and see all this changing just before our eyes, just in the couple of years since we've had a good long conversation.
Oh my God, dude, man. And it's like, the more you research this, and this one thing I love and about your research, and kind of like Dr. Joseph Farrell, you cover many topics, many genres, because I believe that's what's wrong with the field of ufology. We're too focused on one particular thing. It's like a spider's web, or you can think of it like an ornament on a Christmas tree. You have a bunch of ornaments, but the agenda is that tree. Like, it's all attached to one. You know what I mean? It's all interwoven. And I believe a lot of this does tie in like an ornament on the tree to an age-old agenda. And one thing I found one thing, and that's what I love about your research. And I've been following you amongst some of the elite researchers too. You were up there, dude, with over the years. One thing that I think I have a spirit or something. You don't know if you heard that. Soap was in here, but one thing I have found that with your newest book and some of your other books, that correlation is Michael Desarian's Atlantis, Alien Visitation, and Genetic Manipulation. You can't hardly find this book anymore. I don't know if he even does interviews anymore, but some of this stuff is pretty good. And this what I'm about to read you is about to lead up to some other stuff. But
oh yeah,
from his book, and I got some of your quotes too from your book too. In spite of the efforts of many perspective writers, humans are still far from the understanding how their world and destiny have been shaped. Because of the children and the Nephilim are in charge of the media, we habitually find Atlantis put before us at a long lost paradise where a wise priest presided over semi-enlightened, sublimely contented people at one with their environment. The propaganda has been particularly effective in the New Age movement. New Agers must nostalgically over a long lost golden age. Unlike the elders and shaman of the world, they fail to realize the paradise that once existed was the earth itself. Yes, earth is where peace and harmony reside. Before the arrival of the Nephilim, that is, the Atlantean sorcerers knew it would take centuries for mankind to progress technologically. Ages would pass before civilization advanced enough for their descendants to rebuild the technical hardware lost during their great war of the gods. They realized it was their own violence that lost them the vast majority of their sophisticated weaponry and flying craft, and they knew that until it was rebuilt, they were trapped on Earth, never to roam the skies as before. But so that's from Michael Tsarian's book. And this, I pulled this from your book, chapter Technology Leap. Now I'm trying to think about this from your book, Beyond Esoteric, the chapter Technology Leap. I'm trying to tie this in before where we're about to trying to steer us in this certain direction. We are witnessing right now, this quote from you in your book, we are witnessing right now the greatest advancement in technology in the entire recorded history of the world. These profound changes in our collective society are driven by the minds of humans. Just in the last century, some of the greatest thinkers have laid down the philosophy, equations, and advanced science to allow these advancements. But as we will see at the end of this chapter and section, technology art also has a dark side. Okay, Brad, here's where it's about to get deep and dark. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, because think about it, fellas. That read his book, read that chapter, and then also what I just read from Michael Tsarian. There's so many other researchers, but man, you broke it down very well. I just pulled a little small piece. So this is a very powerful statement, Brad. In a way, it kind of correlates to Michael Tsarian's quote with technology in a certain way.
Yep.
I recently read also, do you think that the reason for this great technological leap the past 100 years is due to this unseen shadow force that manipulates society from the shadows? And if so, maybe one reason the shadow force is possibly helping with this burst in technology is because the shadow force needs us to be their worker bees and work as a collective so that one day we can eventually merge with the machines and help this shadow force finally have the technology to leave this prison planet. And the reason for them wanting us to merge with the transhuman artificial intelligence is so that we can survive in space and be their slaves off planet. They know if we merge with the machines, we will be perfect slave species that can survive the vastness of space. What do you think about that?
You're on to something very important, Michael.
That's why I was trying to I wrote that down because after reading I remember some of Michael Tsarian's, I've read his stuff on and off over the years, and from reading that chapter in your book, I was like, oh my God, that just dawned, But yeah, I guess elaborate on that, man.
Well, and this is the beginning of what I get into in this Ubermind section, starting with the Technology Leap chapter. And this is where transhumanism begins as well. And this is how the human race has split right before our eyes. So this other human 2.0, this human born Genesis, is going to use the technology in their body they already have with this thing, has then added new elements that actually make people patentable. Wrap your head around that. Because they're in patent law. You cannot patent anything organic. So a flower or an orange or grass, if it grows naturally, you can't patent it. You have to change a couple of the molecules around, not only spin it off as something as a hybrid. So seeds that are hybrid, or the Monsanto seeds where they're just injecting into the genome the changes, then you can make money off it. Then it's patentable. So just keep that in mind as we move into this whole transhumanist agenda, because there's always a profit motive behind it. It's just the whole adage that if you can't make sense of a story, follow the money. And the money is big in this field, and it is taking us down a path of no return if this is the fate of humanity. Just again, in Davos, or in the Davos group who's running this G20 conference, like, oh yeah, these young governors and presidents who are coming, oh, that they're independent, they have independent thought, yeah, they're going to do all their own thinking, but Schwab just happens to be there, and so does Gates. No, it's the billionaires that are running the show, and they're also running the politician, little puppets.
Mm-hmm.
And so another thing they were pushing at this Bali, Indonesia G20 summit was the vax passport. They want to push that again. And if you like to international travel, like I do, then they want that to be a thing. So they're hitting us at every angle to get us into this transhumanist mode. And this is only the beginning. Of course, we're going to be sold the primrose path of all the benefits that you can do. Oh, I can open my car door with my microchip. Beep, beep, beep. Oh, that was so convenient. I didn't even have to reach in my pocket and turn my key anymore. Gosh, now I can turn it on and get into my office. And we're going to get sold a pack of lies to get us to submit our free will to go along with this. But boy, oh boy, oh boy, if the Old Testament didn't get it spot on with the mark of the beast, and it's going to be a tattoo, and it's going to be all these things. This is absolutely prophetic how this is all coming to be right now before our very eyes. And that mark of the beast is this transhumanist future that is being sold to us once again, right now in real time.
Do you think that, tying it in with the age old agenda? Now, I don't know, whoever our creators are, the Anunnaki, the Nephilim, the Builder race. There's just so many things out there, so many, I guess, great hypotheses, that who actually created this, or who are our owners, who owns us,
Yeah.
or so.
I can give you a very succinct answer to that.
Well, do you think they're working behind the scenes, kind of like what I said, from what you were saying, in your book, and also what I've pulled from other people too, is that they're working behind the scenes because they want to escape this planet. They're creating a prison planet for us to be slaves, working technologically to make them higher, to make them to where they can eventually. What if they can't leave the planet? You know what I mean? What if they're trapped beneath our feet? What if they're trapped in Antarctica? What if they're just here spiritually, like in an essence, in the ether or something, not physically, and they want us to merge with the machine so they can download into us. You know what I mean?
Well,
and then leave the planet. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, well, that's all coming to be. That's the weird thing. You're calling it right now in real time too, Michael. And let me give you a very succinct answer. This last summer at the Mount Shasta Summer Conference, and one thing that's happened since we spoke last is I do get invited to speak at a lot of conferences now, about a dozen or so a year. It's great. I fly to Orlando last month, and
that's why I said ever since we talked last, you just been doing that, dude.
Hey, I'm just in service to humanity. I really am. I want to see us pull through, and I realize this is a very, very important, crucial time, and it all comes down to people's decisions. And it is a time that we absolutely have to opt out of anything that is going to compromise this temple called our body. So the very succinct answer to who owns this place was given by Alex Collier, who is doing among his very last public appearances. And he just did a Q&A in front of everybody, answering questions, people on the mic. And the question was, who owns planet Earth? And he said, the Anunnaki. They created us through their genetic experiments way back when, and they have been seeding us and working behind the scenes, like you said. So you can't look at the Rockefellers or the Rothschilds as being the top of the totem pole here. They're more like the colonels and the majors. The generals are these very human-like, but not quite human, very tall with elongated head, Anunnaki. And incidentally, Michael, all around the world, and I got a chance to go down to South America 4 years ago before my sailboat trip to Antarctica, and got a chance to see some of these giant elongated skulled beings, which are actually in museums in Peru and in Ecuador. You can go into a museum and see what does appear to be human-like, but then when you look at how big their skulls are, that's not human. And they don't have a central suture. The eye sockets are 30% bigger. The connection to the spine is also 30% bigger. So bigger head, bigger body. These are the giants that have been found around the world.
I might be part Anunnaki because I was always said I had a big head too growing up. You know, I finally grew into my head.
Your profile. It's got to be really pronounced back here, man. Got to be popping out the back.
So, and I agree with the elongated skulls, and because they've been seen and people have been mimicking boarding, cranial boarding. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Been mimicking that for hundreds or thousands of years. Makes you wonder why they've been mimicking that. You know what I mean?
You can do that. You can put a board on your head. It's called cranial deformation. And the Flathead Indians of Idaho did it. There are many examples around the world. They also did it in Peru. The Homo sapiens did it to emulate as much as they could on the back. But here's the kicker. In these elongated skulls, they have a cranial capacity, that is the brain cavity, 30 to 35% larger than humans. So I don't care how many times you wrap or board or do whatever you want to do. Yes, you can get the skull to move around. It's somewhat malleable if you continue to apply pressure. But what you cannot do is add 30% more cranial capacity, right?
You can't have more brain.
And all those features I just mentioned with the skull clearly makes them human-like, but not quite human. So who are they? I think they're the Anunnaki, and they've been here all along.
Now, and I do think that they have been here. If it not exactly, maybe, I don't know. I've kind of went back and forth. If it's not the Anunnaki, it's somebody that have been here, this force. Brooks Agnew calls it the force, hidden force. I forgot. Yeah. I just posted on Facebook. It did pretty good a couple months ago. From an excerpt from a face-to-face interview that I did with him in Texas not too long ago. But I'm starting to lean that, they haven't really left. But here's the thing, Brad. Are they here in the physical, do you think? Or do they possess certain elites in the world? You know what I mean? Or are they hidden somewhere on Earth in the physical?
They're hidden.
Or like, is it the physical, or is it these more spiritual essence, or kind of like they are the cosmic internet of Earth or something, and they want to possess somebody just like that their blood, that their cosmic Wi-Fi can just possess a certain elite, and they could be part Anunnaki. You know what I mean? Like, what do you think? Are they here physically or more spiritually or whatever?
Well, and they could be on this planet X, which has been proven to be pulling gravity, and it's known to exist, although it hasn't been pinpointed, but I think probably it has. They're just not telling us that this was their home planet, but it had they had lost a lot of the atmosphere, so they needed to tinker with these proto-humans that were starting to evolve on the surface of planet Earth many millennia ago. Call them the proto-humans, like Australopithecus africanus, that became Homo erectus, that became Homo sapien. But there was some tinkering involved, and even the inventor or the discoverer of the DNA, named Francis Crick, he was noted as saying that to go from Homo erectus to Homo sapien with as much advancement in so little time would be like if a 747 plane was just disassembled every single part out on a big football field, and you and I were expected to put it together and fly it. It's about that impossible, that there would be so much advancement in the Homo sapien as from these proto-humans, that there had to be some genetic tinkering. And this is what it's all about. And this is why the Anunnaki still consider Earth their dominion and their property, and we are their chattel, much in the same way as a rancher has sheep or cattle or pigs or chickens, they have their livestock, and we happen to be livestock to them. And another chapter in Beyond Esoteric is being aware of predatory species. We like to think we're on the very top of this food chain, but in actuality, we're not. And this is where it comes into all the real darkness that has been perpetrated on this earth. And look, we know that underneath the planet, there's at least 130 DUMBs, deep underground military bases on this planet. I've pinpointed close to a dozen legacy bases, I call them, around the world where there have been ET bases in space where they can stay out of the public view, not even be seen by satellite, and able to go about their business. And they are master geneticists. This is the whole story of Enlil and Enki and his son Marduk and their dominion over this planet. And up until recently, Michael, they've had the high technology to come and go as they please. Now that's being cut off. Now they're being starved out and facing the human race like they've never faced us before, because now we have tools and technology and the knowledge of their existence. And they are the ones who are really pushing the globalist agenda. It's an anti-human depopulation agenda at the end of the day. And we really have to understand what we're up against, because this is a matter of self-defense, staying alive in light of how they're trying to depopulate us right now in this moment.
Well said. And do you think that's the reason why over the past 100 years, well over 100 years, that the technological leap has been surging forward is because they know that possibly we are fighting back? Or they
are. And our generals who have been really whores to technology, just saying,
keep talking.
Give us
I'm
what
going to
you
try
got.
to find something.
Yeah. That they have been selling out the human race in the form of allowing human abductions, allowing cattle mutilations, and allowing them to have safe haven in their underground bases, and even giving them military support. And while a lot of the cattle mutilation incidents have dropped in the last decade or two, it's just because they've gained too much notoriety. So now they'll just send them cargo loads with trains to these underground bases. They don't even have to deal with it anymore, and just dispose of the carcasses in different kind of ways. And unfortunately, the same goes true with all the trafficked people, that human trafficking is the number one illicit business on this planet. And while most end up in the sex trade, some do get exported off planet. So that's how I mean, our military generals have sold out the human race. Who would allow their own to let that happen, if not for just the new form of slavery that is now taking the place of the old form of slavery? Just like the Who song, Michael, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. Some things never change.
Exactly right. And you were talking about genetics and tampering and all that with genetics and bloodlines. What I was trying to find while I was making a bunch of racket when you was trying to talk is I bought this off eBay. Actually, I have a couple of copies. This is from 1999, January 11th issue of Time.
Oh, wow.
The Future of Medicine. The Future of Medicine.
Serpent. Isn't that funny?
How genetic engineering will change in the next century. Why the symbology there? And while you were talking, it made me think about this, that I had this issue. Why the symbology? Does that go back to ancient times, like with the serpent, with maybe reptilian or whatever in our DNA? Like, elaborate a little bit on that, Brad.
Yeah, well, obviously the snake and then the serpent climbing up, that's the catechus. That is the medical symbol to this day. And isn't it interesting? It happens to be a serpent, and it's climbing up through our DNA. Wow. Okay, great. So what are they telling us there? That they want to insert reptilian DNA into the human genome. Well, in fact, we already have it. It's called the reptilian brain, and it's in the very back of our skull, and it is the fight or flight mechanism. That's part of our reptilian brain that actually can keep us alive. That if we're fighting for our lives or our family, that the adrenaline will pump and we'll just find extra strength to survive. That is a natural tendency among all animals, all insects, all life on this planet is the fight or flight mechanism. That's why you see in the animal kingdom all the camouflage and ways that they'll try to not be detected. That's the flight mechanism. But if they got to turn and fight, most animals can give a good fight just enough so they can run away and get away and live for another day and mate and keep their genome alive. It's just really self-defense is nature's oldest law. So it's always perpetuating in all species. And we have it in our human brain too, in that reptilian part of our brain. And the funny thing with that article is that it appears they want to just inject us with more. Yeah, get more warlike, more reptilian. Yeah, like the movie Avatar, and we'll just go out and conquer other planets in the future. And that's the human race. We're just gonna kick ass with our military and go get what we want. And that's the split we're seeing right now. And if we go down timeline 2, it could be an Avatar future for the human race. But if we go to timeline 1, we got to clear this planet of these dark entities and allow the human race for the first time in their existence to blossom and look out for one another and heal this planet.
And do you think that you was talking about missing people or whatever, trafficking and stuff? Do you think, and Dave Pilates, I think that's how you say his name. Do you think that that's what's going on? Is that either us, some kind of rogue element, or ETs, could be, let's say the worker bee ETs for the Anunnaki or whatever? Do you think that they are coming up missing, either, like I said, by these ETs, worker bees, or by us, maybe taken to off world or out off this planet, or maybe underneath our feet, some dome somewhere deep on our milligram base, and tampering with our genetics even more to try to. That's the only thing I just don't understand. I think that's very possible. That's the reason why so many thousands and thousands of people come up missing every year.
Oh yeah,
I believe that some rogue element, if it is us or ETs or combination, is tampering with us somehow. But I just don't know why. Are they, and like, here's another one, like with Dolly the sheep, cloning. Are they actually doing cloning deep beneath our feet? They're making us think that it's just animals.
Right.
No, it may be actually us. There? Yeah.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, what's going on, bro? I can't, that's something I can't, with stuff you've talked about, Dave Pilates. I think that's how you say his name.
David Pilates.
Yeah,
he's been great for showing us all the missing children, including in national parks, and be very, very careful keeping together, especially the young ones. And there are many stories of little Johnny just falling behind on the trail or taking off into the brush to go to the bathroom and catch up, and they'll never see their kid again. And the tracks will just end and they have no idea where they go. National parks are notorious for missing persons and nobody's even suspecting it. And there are entrances to DUMBs in many of the national parks, as well as off-limit zones, especially out here in the western part of the U.S. where I'm at, Michael, where the national parks are so ginormous, but there will be 100-square-mile areas, even in some of the most famous national parks, where no human can go. And I've heard from some of the super soldiers and people that work in the programs with some of these ETs. They also have drop zones in these forbidden areas in the national parks where carcasses get dropped, so as not to scare the people. But when they're done with the body or a cow after being mutilated, they now have drop zones, and then scary, they'll dispose of them otherwise. So I mean, this is how deep and dark it goes, and humans are a commodity and bought and paid for and sold on the intergalactic market as well. So there are humans who have sold us out, and I would just like to think that someday they will meet justice. But I know karma is a real law, and it can be a bitch. And so everything they're doing to other people, including their own and the human race, will have to be meted out against them. And they'll have to experience the same pain and horrors that they have inflicted on others.
And I may be
So,
asking you to speculate some. Just tell me what your gut is telling you with if it's the if and the ET side. Like, what do you think is going on?
all right.
Well, I know all right, fellas, this is speculation. This is his what his gut is telling him.
Well, it's more than my
So,
gut. It's what I've
okay.
researched in
Tell us what you
Beware of
think.
Predatory
Yeah,
Species.
because
Yeah. And
something that deep and dark is going on, and this is a very deep and dark subject material, you know.
yeah, it is. So here's what's been going on, and it has been going on for a long time. And the secret societies, the occult, the magic. Bill Cooper had a great quote from his first UFO Congress, and he said that as they're backward engineering and getting to understand what these gray aliens, and I'll get into different alien species here in a second, but he said, we have found out and we come to understand now that these ETs, these malevolent service to self ETs, have been manipulating humanity through secret societies, witchcraft, magic, the occult, and religion. If you just wrap your head around that for a minute and see how manipulated the human race has been for many, many centuries, because this is where all the thought was. This is religion. This is spirituality, although it's been so inverted, it's nothing like spirituality. But in the conclusion of Beyond Esoteric, I propose that isn't it interesting that the devil or Satan has been always thought to be down below in hell and fire and brimstone and a burning environment, underground bases, anyone? Isn't it interesting that there's these legacy bases that are mostly reptilian or gray aliens? Now, gray aliens are made out of a test tube. They're all synthetic at this point. Even the ones that are coming back from our future, our hybrids, they needed our DNA. And this is really what the human race is as far as being a commodity. It is our genome is so valuable. So you got that Time Magazine article. Yeah, you bet it's all about the genome and the blood. And so, yeah, the future of medicine. Oh, okay. Medicine's going to make us more reptilian. Good one, Time. Way to predictively program that headline article. I love it. They tell us what they're doing, and that's part of the free will, Michael. They got to telegraph what they're up to.
Dude, that was in the 90s,
perfect
man.
Examples.
That was in the 90s.
Good one.
90s.
Good one to have.
And
let's look at it this way. There's two ways to look at ET species. There are those that are in service to self, and they will do these programs and manipulate and abduct humans, and they don't care if you live or die. Same thing with animals. And then there are those that are service to others, the benevolent ETs that do want to see us ascend and will help the human race, but they have to do it from behind the scenes. They don't want to just show up and be our babysitters and, oh, pray to the gods who came from the skies. And, oh, would you clean up Fukushima for us? No, we get into these messes. We got to clean up our messes. But at the same time, we have had this age-old manipulation from these malevolent ET forces, and these are predatory species. So waking up to all this is how we started the show. You're opting out of allowing this to happen. Just remember, every vampire movie and every story you heard about the vampires, you invite them in. The woman leaves the door open and the bat flies in the window and she's just intrigued and then spellbound and then manipulated and sexualized, and then in come the fangs and they suck the blood. That's based on truth. Those are energy vampires, and this is the kind of vampirism of these malevolent ETs, which is this Archon network, this lower fourth dimensional realm. And this is where people that don't want to incarnate or move on after they die. This is the realm of the ghosts and what we could describe as the demons of the Bible. But I think now it's more easy to understand them as being these reptilians. That's what they've always been. And so these malevolent Anunnaki are also part of it, that they
Is it
are allied together and they work together. And it was always for the control of the planet, but now that is being wrested away. And we find ourselves in the situation we're in now.
could that tie to Inky?
You bet it does. It's all about that. So what they did was take advanced Anunnaki and reptilian. Human genome has 24 plus different markers to ET and other species races, including the reptilian, like I said, with the reptilian brain in the back. There are others. We're also part Pleiadian. We have Lyran in us. These are the human types that have made us very advanced. And Alex Collier will even say, we have the royal DNA because we are this emerging species and we're interracial, marrying blacks, whites. Everybody is becoming everyone, right? That's actually good for our genome. It is strengthening our genome. It is making us a rock solid future human genome that isn't degrading. We still make love the natural way, and that's very, very important. That's where the Greys went awry. They just stopped having natural sex and natural childbirth. Yeah, then they became master clone to do what they're doing, but
But a
they
mule can't
eventually will
reproduce no
die
more
out
either,
that
though.
way.
A mule can't
Say again?
reproduce anymore. I said a
That's
mule
right.
can't reproduce anymore. So if they
That's
keep
right.
tampering with this, is that going to hurt our future? You know,
Right.
it
And
just
that they
makes you
will have
wonder.
to come back to get human genome or go to other planets where there are these other emerging homo species types like a homo erectus. And those are actually very pure genomes too, as well as the chimpanzees and the gorillas on our planet. All the great apes, all the animals really have a storehouse here because we are such a primitive planet when you look at it in terms of who are these benevolent ET races. And there's virtually every kind of advanced alien race out there, from insectoid to reptilian to aquatic type ETs that were found in Lake Baikal and live in the deepest lake in the world, to very, very human-like ones, just like us. You could see someone out walking down the street. Maybe they're a lot taller and bigger heads and bigger eyes, but the human look is actually very common. And most of the ET benevolent races that want to see Earth ascend are of a human-looking origin. Not all of them. There are even good reptilians, I understand, and even some good insectoids. You see, you can only ascend to the fifth dimension or higher if you have love in your heart and you have the natural reproductive abilities, which the reptilians do, but they are of a mindset, a hive mind, that they don't want to do that. They would just rather, hey, we'll skip 5D. We're just going to keep being locusts of the universe and going around and finding planets to exploit and where we can hang out and not be obstructed. You see, because those reptilians and those grays, they can get around the whole prime directive because they are organic earthlings too. They were born here, and therefore they have a right to the resources of the planet. It just so happens some of those resources happen to be humans and our livestock with all the cattle mutes.
And
So
you
that's how deep the rabbit hole goes, but I hope I synthesized it in a succinct way there.
you did it. You did a really good job, Brad. And you also do an even better job when you write this stuff down in your book, because
Yeah.
I got another one down for you.
You can
I
get
got
more
I got
detail that way.
I got oh exactly. And people buy his book, Beyond Esoteric. Actually, all of his esoteric series. But from ET is already home. The
Yeah,
ET is already home
that's
chapter.
another chapter.
On the malevolent ET side of this is what you wrote. On the malevolent ET side of exopolitics, we begin to see the larger agenda of subversive planetary control hidden from the rest of us. The Luciferian black arts with the old black nobility have had a known allegiance with since ancient times, is involved with a crossbreeding between aliens and humans to create hybrids with super psi powers from the dark side. Man, I can keep reading. I got it down. If you'll be, if If true, then psi power is a Luciferian black arts power provided by aliens to a certain select group of humans who have been deeply involved with them for many generations. For those that doubt this, do some basic research on Aleister Crowley and how a great alien ET type appeared to him inside a pyramid in Egypt. This same power was sought by certain top SS Nazi officers in the basement of Wellsburg Castle.
Wieselberg!
That castle. These gatherings were related to their occult organization, the Black Sun. Some experts believe that it was a cult connection to these alien ET spirit guides that provided the advanced Nazi weapons technology, including anti gravity craft and perhaps even time warping. It also gives a new meaning to the concept of selling your soul to the devil. And that's all I have right there.
Hey, good way to segue into this.
Well,
See who's
what
been
you were
doing-
talking about, Brad, segued pretty much into that. It all ties in, man.
Does that look familiar?
We
Know where
talked
that
about it.
place is?
We talked about that before.
That's
Me
the
and you
audience
did.
hall at the Vatican. Isn't it interesting that it looks exactly like that snake that you just showed on the Time magazine cover?
Yeah.
There seems to be this serpent worship that's been right there on the catechist, which is a symbol of medicine, all throughout Western history's long sordid affair with these kind of chemical drugs, which is really more in the last 100 years. But if you look at this serpent cult going all the way back through Western civilization, even into ancient Egypt, into some of their mystery schools, and also in the Far East, once again, it's reptilian influence on the human race. It has been so pervasive for so long. And remember, the greatest trick the devil ever played on the human race was to make us believe it didn't exist. So it's just been hidden in plain sight all this time. And who do you think the Pope really worships in that audience hall that looks like the head of the snake from the outside and the face of a reptilian on the inside? So these are the power structures. These are the cutout humans, as I call them, that have sold out the human race, that have gone along with this agenda because they needed the human actors to bring in all the suckers, the priest, bringing in the flock.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Bringing him to the slaughterhouse? He's the Judas goat. So careful of a sheep in wolf's clothing, I should say. All is not what it seems.
So you were talking about the Vatican, and
Yeah.
man, and we talked about a little bit about that several years ago, and I'll try to give the link to some of our stuff in the description below for other
Oh, great.
for newcomers. But man, with the Vatican, you know what I don't remember who I heard this from. Man, it could have been you. I don't know who I heard it from. So I apologize for not paraphrasing them properly. But yes, dude. But
Those ones, yeah.
but also I heard that they could be the modern day Roman Empire also, to go back further than the Nazis.
Well, it is. Yeah. And it was me that told you. And then that traces back to ancient Egypt. Keep in mind, a pharaoh in ancient Egypt was a man like you and me, but he was revered as a living god, right? So after Julius Caesar was killed, his nephew, Augustus Caesar, became the first emperor of Rome. And then there was a long string of Caesars who ruled the Roman Empire. And the Caesars were considered living gods. And now what do we have? The Pope in Rome with his ear directly to God. So it's a straight continuation, corruption of how we have to listen to these guys to have some kind of spiritual purpose in our lives. I mean, where do you get off on that?
So Rome never
been a
fell.
very effective tool for a very long time. And like that Bill Cooper quote, this is one way that aliens have manipulated humanity: secret societies, witchcraft, magic, the occult, and religion.
Powerful. And what I read from your book also, man, from ET is Already Home. I meant to say, dude, that's powerful, man. That's powerful stuff. And people you need to buy the book. He's a very good writer. Like a lot of these things that I can only dream of, and just things that scramble in my head like that. You placed it down in words, and so Rome never fell. So
No,
the
Rome never fell. And you know who is
it's hiding
the
in plain sight. Yeah,
Octagon group? Have you heard about this? Is now being exposed that the Octagon group
I heard you mention it, but I forgot though.
up in Switzerland.
Yeah,
So they are the pharaonic bloodline of age old. So it just passed right on up through. Who are the military force in the Vatican? They're called the Swiss Guards. So this is the tie-in. Now we have a Jesuit white pope and a Jesuit black pope. So the Jesuits have won. They have now taken over the Roman Catholic Church, and they were designed as a military order, and they operated that way, and now they have done it. Do you know that the Vatican has ambassadors that go to other countries? It's its own city state right there in Rome. I've been several times. It's totally autonomous. It follows no laws or rules of Italy or the city of Rome. If there's a crime that takes place there, it has to be the Vatican police that handle it. Roman police can't even enter the property to make an arrest, even if something blatant is going on. And I do describe the rent-a-boy ring that has been exposed. And this is through my work with Leo Lion-Zagami. I published 5 of his books at CCC Publishing, the first 3 in the Confession of the Illuminati series, Invisible Master, and The Last Pope, which I wrote the foreword to. So I'm well acquainted with this power structure and how they have been very effective. And now let me just preface this by saying to all the Catholic listeners out there, I am not knocking you. I know that faith is a powerful thing, and there's a lot of great Catholics who have done great work in the world. What I'm saying is, the way our hierarchies are set up on planet Earth, it's very easy to hack the very top of the pyramid. All you have to do is influence the top dozen, or what's the population of Vatican City? Only about 565 people.
not much.
Right. That rule the entire, over 1 billion people are Catholics on this planet. You only have to get to those dozen or so top people to rule them all in this hierarchy system. Now, you said you were in the military, you know all about a hierarchy and who your commanding officer is, and taking orders and not objecting if you're given an order that feels wrong to you. You don't have a choice. And that's the way they've set it up so cleverly and brilliantly that there has been no chance to even resist, even if you saw how wrong it was. That's how lock, stock, and barrel it's been.
That still makes me guilty, though.
But
I feel like it still makes me guilty if I was to, or anybody or us, if we were to order to do something that we thought was wrong and we fulfilled that commitment, fulfilled that order, we could have said no. I think that's what's wrong with us, and just like you have talked about with Rome, the Vatican, and other elites in the world. I've heard you talk about on many other shows, and even mine.
Yeah.
That the reason why I've heard you say that all we had to do was say no, but the thing is, paraphrasing the things you've said, but they precisely manipulate things to where it's hard for us to say no, something like that.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
Why would they want us to have free choice and free will? They want us to think we don't have it. But I'm saying it is your birthright that you have it. Just like when you were born on this planet, you're going to need to breathe. You're going to need to eat. You're going to need clean water to drink. You're going to need a shelter. Those are your birthrights. Just being born, like every animal and every living species, has a right to exist and a right to live. But they don't want us to know that. They want to start charging us even for water now. The water wars that are going on, and they're sapping the aquifers of all around the world, really, and trying to turn around and sell it to us.
They're trying to make everything automated,
it's insidious. The amount of the tentacles of this globalist empire, how it's really like an octopus, octagon group that has used the corporations, printing press of the money, owning the media, bought and paid for judges and politicians. They got it all. Their new world order plan is very, very close. They think it's still going to succeed, but I think they're going to go down in a the biggest failure of some of the systems that have run this planet for centuries crashing down as they should. And then we can begin anew and make it a very equitable system where we can have the very best we can make this planet to be and clean it up for your future child that's going to be born next week, Michael.
It's
You want the
scary,
best
though, man.
planet available for them, the opportunity they have to do good in the world. And that is why right now is such an opportune time that we have to be well aware what we're up against. Because if you don't even know the enemy you're supposed to be fighting, how can you expect to win or even survive? You can't. And that was the impetus and the information that I put in these esoteric books, is the power for people to understand that there is this other side, this control agenda that has an iron grip on so many systems of this planet. It really is a controlled plan to get all the governments in lockstep, like the Rockefeller document. They're captured organizations now. They're captured operations. And if it wasn't for our free military to give the last beacon of hope to the world, there's nowhere else to go. And so that's why right now it's going to be the showdown America, because it's going to be the globalists trying to crush us. And it's our free spirited American way that is going to resist. And I think in the end, just like it's referenced in the Bible, in the end, God wins. And this is a divine war. We really are in the spiritual fight for our life, for the sovereignty of planet Earth, and for future generations to have a chance on this place, not just go right into a corporation and an off-planet job like in the movie Avatar. We don't want to be those humans. We want to be sovereign human beings that care about each other, that preserve this planet, and educate ourselves in such a way that nothing gets held back. So we'll enter an age of transparency where just there won't be any conspiracies anymore. And there's actually technology that can help us do it in the form of this yellow cube, which I featured. It's so important. I put it on the cover of the book and go into it quite extensively, what potential it has and what we know about it, and how it's also been used to try to game the system for the globalists. That's their timeline too. That's why they want to get us into World War III right now. It's so insidious, but once you can wrap your head around it and how pervasive it is in all the systems of the world, then you can opt out. And we absolutely have a choice to do that and just say no to this agenda that they're trying to put on us.
Well said. And you basically answered one of my questions, which was, because I know we're about to wind things up for this time, but is it the cabal's goal to make everything fully automated? And if that's the case,
Totally.
then where does this leave us? We obviously won't have any jobs because artificial intelligence will be doing the work. Is it part of the agenda in which the elite get richer and the average Joe, like me and you and others watching this, can barely make ends meet? You know?
Oh yeah, and we're the subversives, and they want to off with their head. So it's self-defense war, really. It truly is. If they could get us into the FEMA camps, you can check in anytime you like, but you can never leave, just like Hotel California. That is part of their end goal, and they do want a 90% reduction in the human population, as was stated on the Georgia Guidestones. And that's another sign that the white hats and the good guys are fighting back, because that thing got blown up a couple months ago. And I did a little fist pump there when that one went down. And once again, you got an esoteric subject becoming exoteric. Now people have heard about it and they know how offensive it is to say, maintain the balance of humanity at 500 million. Yeah, well, where did the other 7.5 billion go then? I guess
Maybe,
you didn't give us
maybe
an option for that. Oh yeah, and the Davos group saying, "Oh, you're going to own nothing and like it." Oh, well, who owns everything then? Oh, you do, right? Okay, that's going to be good for me somehow. You can eat the bugs, right? So we got to get rid of these guys. It has to come crashing down. And if I can play that role in my books and these interviews and conferences, then that's what I'm here for. That's my karma. This is probably my last lifetime on this planet. I'm ready to get the hell off this prison planet.
I
And
hear
that's
that.
how you get off. by being a good person, by being in service to all and doing the very best you can for Team Humanity at this crucial juncture.
Last thing before we go, and man, you're tying this all together very well. But I feel like, yes, we're waking up as a race. We're pushing back, yes, but man, I feel like it's just not enough. You know what I mean? And I'm a very optimistic person, but I can come across as a pessimist because I feel like people just need shit to hit the fan. I'm not talking about the past couple of years with the C word. I'm talking about something worse than that. Like I feel like we haven't been pushed hard enough for us to wake up. But the thing is, if we get pushed hard enough to wake up like 90% of the population or 100, whatever, I feel like maybe too late by then, just like Nazi Germany.
Well, they're waking up around the world. Yeah, there's huge protests in Europe and in other parts of the world, but there's an old saying that Americans won't do nothing. We won't get off our big fat butts until we feel the pain, till we really get pinched. Oh, and then we're going to get up and we're going to kick some whoop ass. But we haven't quite gotten that a stress point yet. But they even call it this, a strategy of tension right now, that they're going to try to really tighten the screws all around us. Well, 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. So once they crash the system, and it's coming, but this is the globalist last chance. So they would resist to do that till the bitter end, but they are now getting cornered and a lot of their systems are being dismantled. It's a military operation. It's also a spiritual war that's going on right now for the very heart and soul of the human race. That is what is at stake at this moment. And so we all need to have some skin in the game. And look, I understand not everybody can get out there and do a radio show like you're doing or write books, but all you have to do is hold the space, hold that consciousness that you understand that we're not going to take it. And we have to preserve what we have for this human race moving forward from this point on. We're not going to take any more of the jabs. We're not going to take these mandates. We're not going to take what they're going to try to throw down our throat. We're going to band together like good human beings and help each other out and get through some dark days, which I'm afraid are still ahead of us. But we have to go through the darkness of the tunnel before we pop out in the light. And when we do, it'll be a glorious day for humankind. And I hope I'm still alive to see it.
Well, a diamond doesn't become a diamond without being dark and black and a lump of coal. You know what I mean? Like we got to fight. We got to fight to make this future better. And we're going to be going through a lot of hard times, a lot of trials and tribulations, but we'll eventually get there. But Brad, where can people find your books? Of course, Amazon is the place to go, but where would you like people to go? Is it Amazon or you want people to go CCC Publishing?
Yeah, go to CCC Publishing, then you can get a signed copy from me. But here's my URLs. Esoteric Book Series is a URL, and bradolsen.com if you want to find out about my conference schedule next year. I've already got a dozen or so booked. And CCC Publishing is our publishing website. It's other authors that I work with on that site, but any of Brad Olsen books get signed on their way out. So go to CCC Publishing and pick yourself up a copy. And plus, we're coming into the Christmas season. Makes a great stuffing stocker to red pill that family member you have. And I do not waste time in my books. I get right to the meat of the matter. I only write and publish books that I would be proud to own myself. And I often use my own books to reference, looking up dates or little details that I know I can find in there. Because I just want the important information that people need to make the right decisions. And this is where we started this talk tonight. It's all about your free will and enforcing it and being fierce about your body is your temple, and only you're going to have a say for what goes in it, or our children who are quite innocent and don't have a voice for themselves. And that's how we get through this, Michael. And you know, we've been through this already in the last couple of times we talked. This whole thing is blown up on its head, and here we are a couple years later, and we're still able to have this conversation. So I am very optimistic, like you, that we are going to pull this off, and we are going to come out much better civilization and race of people, but we got some dark days ahead of us. So keep yourself alive, stay healthy, and don't forget to laugh and enjoy life. The joie de vivre of the French say, the joy of living is so important. Don't forget you're human, and do fun, cool human things, and enjoy your time with your family and loved one and friends around you. And time is short, so stay productive, stay busy, do the things you love, and do the work that's going to help yourself and your friends and family too.
Hell yeah, well said, man. And if people that are watching this or listening to the audio only on the podcast apps, man, if you like what he's saying, then you will really like what he writes down in his books. That's all I have to say about that. As Paul Harvey said, and that was the rest of the story, or the rest of the story is in the books. But man, treat, an honor, a privilege. I salute you, Matt, my friend, and we'll definitely keep in touch. And I'll have you on down the road whenever I can schedule you back in. But yeah.
Hey, you bet, Michael, and good luck with the new one coming on the way. And so great to reconnect with you again, and really had a great conversation with you as per usual, and looking forward to the next one too.